or stand back. So, a little bit about myself. Yes, my name is Jonathan Garcia. I am running for governor 2022. And a little energy here as far as our 1776 2.0. This is where we find ourselves in 2022. If we don't get this right, because everybody's saying that Stacey Abrams is the boogeyman. It's not just Stacey Abrams, it's what we actually have to lose by having bad representation on both aisles. We need to vet our representatives thoroughly. If they can't prove where they've been fighting or standing their ground for we the people, then they should have no job. It is that serious. The mainstream media, they like to call me for the lack of better words, an extremist. And that's because I'm a constitutionalist. I believe that our God-given unalienable rights should remain that way, and that they shouldn't be taxed. They shouldn't be regulated. Those things that the Founding Fathers fought for, the things that we wake up every day, put on our shoes, head out the door to make something out of ourselves for the American dream, is something that we, the people, not we the African American people, not we the Hispanic American people, but we the people as Americans who take pride in what we own, need to understand that everything that we have presently are regulated by privileges. You have a privilege to own your real estate, your land. You have a privilege to own, operate, and drive your car. You have a privilege to leave property to your next of kin. What in the state of Georgia, or all 50 states, do we have that we don't have to ask permission for it, to actually own it? We were, just a few years ago talking about the Green New Deal, how bad the influence of that would be. The information that they do not want to tell you is, we've always had alternative energy. We've always had the capability as Americans to be energy supportive of ourselves, not relying on any other outside country. We didn't have to rely on OPEC. Influence of OPEC, we got a petrodollar. We have fiat currency. Our founding fathers only approved 3 things constitutionally as currency: gold, silver, and promissory notes. Anybody know who owns a good chunk of our national debt? Does that not lead and really ring alarm bells in your head right now? What happens if they go ahead and decide to call that debt? If we go ahead and play the game on out, our founding fathers would have told all of them to go jump in the lake, and that's putting it very nicely. The thing is that if it all crashed tomorrow, what would we have? Because we don't have gold, we don't have silver. And this is a real thought. What all the candidates thus far, previous to now, they have not talked about how we secure our own private property. Our founding fathers, if we did lose our gold, if we did lose our silver, we could use promissory notes. You can go down to the courthouse and remedy your debt. That's what they did not want to tell you about, because they want us all on something that is very fictitious, something that you do not own. Try not paying your taxes. It's a privilege to use their federal notes. It's a privilege that we now have over $30-something trillion in debt, and still trying to raise a debt ceiling on we the people that our children are never, ever, ever going to be able to pay back. You can go, your children's children will never be able to pay that back. How is that fair to we the people? Now, we know that it's not fair at all. They gave us the promise of education. They gave us the promise of knowing our history. Well, how does that sit when they're trying to push CRT down our children's throats? It's not here yet, but you best believe they're kicking it straight forward. Stacey Abrams gets in, it's here. You can put a nail in that. But that's not the boogeyman. The boogeyman is we the people standing up and asserting our rights properly under our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, knowing what the true framers were actually thinking with the Federalist Papers, those that framed our Declaration of Independence. It was for a reason. That reason was because free people do not ask permission for God-given unalienable rights. My background, I'm a proud American success story. I was born in California. I'm a proud survivor. Before we left out there, I was only 14. I was told that I was never, still, working through it, but I would never graduate high school. The life expectancy for a kid in the ghetto in LA was not high at all. But I would never graduate high school. They told me that I would never own my own home. They said that the classic car that I always wanted, that I was crazy enough to want it, and that I would never have it. Came out here with my family. My parents are awesome Christian ministers. My dad being an over-the-road truck driver, so go truck drivers. Thank you, for that, for what they're doing up there. They're fighting for their freedoms, but they're also fighting for ours. They're giving us what it would look like here if it comes to America in that full force. But I graduated from Cartersville High School. Age of 20, bought my first home. In that garage, I put a 64.5 Mustang that I worked on to restore. It was beautiful. A lot of y'all remember what that pony car looked like, showroom. But that little 260 V8 is kind of like the heart of America. It's a little motor, but it's powerful. It's got a lot of torque. Georgia's the same way. We got a lot of heart. We got a lot of torque to keep on messing with us. The thing is that our founding fathers, with our Second Amendment, knew that we should be keeping a free state. And we lost that grasp. Because what are we doing asking permission for what they gave up, for we the people, for us to be here, to call ourselves Americans, holding up our flag. Going from 13 stars to 50 of them. it wasn't just for us to get regulated. It wasn't for us to build revenue. It wasn't for us to create the commerce or anything like that. It was for us to own our private property, away from not just a tyrannical monarchy, but also a tyrannical government, if it ever did show up, and here it is. We have terrorists that are the true terrorists that are up there in the DC swamp, and some of them are here in the state. Unfortunately, are we pissed off and tired enough to want to reset it on our own terms as to what's right there when we open up a pocket constitution? Are we tired of what's being fed to us? That's a lie that we have to walk through every day, knowing that as soon as you open that pocket constitution, you read through the first 10 Bill of Rights, you know that you have none of them, that you have to ask permission for, that you're not taxed from cradle to grave. What, as we the people, are we doing about it? No, we need to give us this. We're now showing up. Red Mammoth, it stands for the Republican Party, going back to its original roots as abolitionists. But not just abolitionists for black slaves. Now it's abolitionists for we the people, because we are at 1776 2.0. I can say where I've been in the trenches for the last 7 years. I can say in the last 9 years where I've lost my 3 Facebook accounts, lost a Twitter account for telling the truth and trying to warn people about not only CRT, but way before it was CRT, it was black Marxism and black communism. When they started actually trying to reform our history, now we're looking at 1619 project. We need the 1776 project. Amen. We need to stand for our children right now. Town hall meetings, commissioner meetings, PTA meetings. I want to say thank you, Trump, for fighting for our children who are being trafficked. Whether it was from them coming out of cartel territory or coming from this constitutional republic into elsewhere outside of the world, stopping that as much as he could. We don't have to build a wall here in the state of Georgia between us and Alabama and Florida and Tennessee and surrounding neighbors. We need that wall on that southern border. Big time. That's not popular for somebody that's Hispanic. And the thing is that I come from I have 3 generations of business owners that tow truck drivers, race car drivers, people that actually had dirt floors and built themselves up out of California. Their ministry was to have the hope that one day, which they didn't know, the hope that there is a better day for we the people. That when we the people get sick and tired of truly taking the brunt of them putting all this stuff on our backs and putting it on our children's backs, and then wondering whether we're going to have to choose between gas or the next meal, it's time for we the people not only to unite, but have each other six. That hope that we will rise to a better Georgia. Not a build back better broke Georgia, a better Georgia. One the founding fathers wanted for us. We're one of the 13 colonies, colonial states. The reason why I want to reinstate the Constitutional Republic, when we do that, we take it back for ourselves. That is our We the People reset. And if you're not happy about that, y'all, understand the reason why we shout USA, USA is because it's not our heritage. It's not being Hispanic, black, white. We only have three colors that we really do truly love in this country that makes us united. That's red, white, and blue. Now, I've heard a lot of how other opponents are the only non-establishment candidate running for governor. And unfortunately, I am the other non-establishment candidate running for governor. I work in a carpet mill night shift, and lo and behold, all those nights of sneaking and listening and researching to what the government and everybody else doesn't want to tell me, here I am today presenting to you 1776 2.0 as a proud American. Not just as a person that enjoyed cage fighting and raising a little ruckus and going into the cage and enjoying all the proud things that I used to do out of high school as a wrestler, but when they start playing the national anthem, I don't know about y'all, but it hits me right here. When I met my brother, Matt McGregor, who's now running for lieutenant governor, I was proud to know a Marine. Like, great minds think alike. Integrity, honor, intestinal fortitude. When you put those things together and you have the enemy looking at you in the face, because I'm one of few, besides Matt McGregor, that has faced off against Antifa and BLM. And we have stood our ground for we the people. We know where we've been. The patriot circles that we are in, a lot of those career politicians will not even go around because they're scared of them, which is sad. That means that they're not representing the voice of we the people. What are they scared of? They're scared of us calling them out on their mess. If you want your God-given inalienable rights back, you want to be able to leave your next generation private property that will not be taken away from them, you want to live the American dream and better yourself. I'm proud of my roots. I truly represent the grassroots. I've really taken it out of the mud to build where I'm at now. I'm very proud of the people that I have had around me. And that's when I shout USA. Everybody should shout USA, USA, USA. So let's hear it, y'all. I'm sorry. But let's hear it for USA. That's where we live. We're proud. USA, USA, USA. Let's go 2022. This is our year, y'all. It's time to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you live?
I live in Floyd. When we came out here from California, we actually relocated to Bartow County. So I'm still staying in the same area, but in between Floyd and Bartow.
What's the city?
Rome, Georgia. I'm a proud Rome boy now.
You're a Roman.
Yeah, I'm a Rome.
Lynn?
I just need to know where you've been and why we haven't heard of you before. Because I want to know why you decided to run for governor.
I am one of the most censored candidates. You have to go through 3 pages on Google to find me in the primary. Honestly, I was very reluctant the first time that social media actually did put something out on me, but they put me out there as a right-wing militia activist. So that's not pretty popular these days.
I found his website. Y'all can find it too. It's really a nice website. So, John, one more question.
I'm on Facebook. I haven't used TikTok too, but I'm also using my website, which is jgarciaforgovernor.com.
Okay.
And
Oh, okay. I love how grassroots you are, actually.
Yes, ma'am.
But my question is, what's in your background or your skill set or anything that would give us confidence in you being our governor?
I was a very proud insurance agent, which I know how a lot of things go with insurance, but also I have very interesting customer service skills. That through patience and making sure that that you have the right deal, that people do come to a equal footing. And as far as business background, I do have a hustle economics, which our founding fathers were very upfront and very forward about free and open trade as far as capitalism. So, you start a business with grass cutting, a little remodeling here and there, painting, offering bids, things like that of that nature. Actually, when you do lose a job, how to get back on your feet, create your own business, and then find something more sustainable that's not, directed by the weather. But I'm a proud carpet mill worker now, and I'm a night shift crew leader, which I've been for the last 7 years, not 9. And I've worked from the bottom up, and for a crew leader is basically like an assistant manager in my plant. So I've been the motivator. I've been the person that has actually trained a lot of people that I've worked with. And when my plant manager actually have seen me walk back and forth to work, not having a car, he would pick me up and not worry about who I was because he knew I was a hard worker and my loyalty to the company.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I told him I love his passion and how he can be emotional about this because we all should be that way about what's going on because it really affects us. So, our next speaker tonight, Mr. Garcia has already mentioned him, is Mac McGregor, who's running for Lieutenant Governor. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Okay, I'm not going to use the microphone because number one, I'm a jarhead, I'm a Marine. Sometimes I get too loud for the microphone. People are like, "Man, calm down." No, I can't calm down. Look at the situation that we're in right now. What is the main problem? What was the cause and effect here in the state of Georgia that put us in this situation where we're trying to protect our kids from CRT? We're having gas price hikes, inflation, gone, like way out there. I'm sorry, but I've never seen gas that high in my life. Okay, your bills, your electric bills, some of you are on a fixed income. I can just imagine how you're trying to get through with paying your bills and putting food on the table. People getting back and forth to work like me. I live in Northwest Georgia. Let me just go ahead and say Marjorie Taylor Greene country. Okay, that's where I'm from, all right? I'm the only candidate on the ticket running for lieutenant governor that is backed by two Second Amendment groups that helped get Marjorie Taylor Greene elected. We're not here to play around with the state no more. So let me tell you failure number one. 2 months prior to the 2020 election, I don't care what anybody says, Trump won.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
I'm sorry, Trump won. So let's talk about failure number one, cause and effect. 2 months prior, before the 2020 election, they wanted a new machine here in the state of Georgia. Now contractors come in, they do their bidding. I mean, if you're a contractor, you understand what I'm talking about. Several machines were on this list. They go in front of the state election board to pass a vetting system. Dominion was not one of them that passed. Okay, so what does that? That makes that machine illegal to even mess with, correct? Okay. So in the late hours on a weekend, backroom door deal at the last minute, they decide to pass HB 316, which brought in the Dominion machine and the drop boxes that Georgia's never seen before. Okay, that's mistake number one. So you're telling me that two individuals that are running for lieutenant governor voted to have these machines and drop boxes brought into the state of Georgia. Okay, if you're not familiar with them, they would be Burt Jones, Butch Miller. How much do you trust them now? Oh no, it gets even better than that. Okay? Yeah. So let's talk about SB 202. The bill that they just passed said it made it easier to vote and less cheating, right? Right. On that bill, they decided to keep one drop box per 100,000 registered voters. I thought you didn't want no more cheating. So why are you keeping the drop boxes? Sounds like to me you just need to have a little common sense when you're writing legislation. But evidently we don't have that to go, though. Now, here we are at the point where they're trying to pass SB 350 here in the state. Does anybody know what SB 350 is? They're trying to make it where candidates like Jonathan Garcia and I, or even Congressman Brown, cannot say we're Republicans or Democrats. We just walk in, tell you our story, and hopefully you might vote for us. They're trying to blur the lines. On top of that, SB 202 also has in it that during the time of a state session, I'm not allowed to raise any funds. How fair is that? It's not good. So they're trying to push that. Now, I'm the only lieutenant governor on the ticket that after the 2020 election, 44 others and I petitioned the federal grand jury. I had a retired federal judge even write the petition to go to the federal grand jury. What they do to kill, what they done to kill the hearing and even listen to the petition, they literally put a bench warrant out on the federal judge. So that tells you how crooked the federal government is in our state. Not saying it's all bad, but it's always the bad people making the good people look bad. Okay? Now, on top of that, I'm the only candidate running for lieutenant governor. Here we go again. That Friday, if you was not paying attention, Mike Lindell came in. 25 boxes were delivered to Kemp's office with 50,000 affidavits to decertify and get busy on a forensic audit here in the state in 159 counties. I've been pushing for a forensic audit since December last year. I want the election decertified. I'm sorry, but when you got Congress people, 2 of them, that wouldn't even stand up for Trump at the time that he needed him, I'm sorry, I can't back you. And one of them's running for governor.
Yep.
Now let's think about that. He didn't stand up for Trump, so he didn't get his seat back because he didn't push hard enough. So now he wants to become governor of the state. I think it's about time we're done with the good old boy system here in the state of Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Now, there's 3 things that Republicans are supposed to be. There's 3 values that Republicans are supposed to have. Does anybody know what they are?
Less taxes, less government, equal opportunity.
More self-responsibility.
And more responsibility.
Okay. So tell me, how this is supposed to work? Bush Bill and Burt Jones bring in, they voted in HB 316, brought in their Dominion machines and the drop boxes. They cost the taxpayers $107 million for the next 20 years. How does that save you money? And they did it without your approval. Seems like if they wanted a new machine, you would have gone the election before that and put it on the ballot. That gives you more self-responsibility if Georgia decides to want it. Agree?
Great.
Got it. Ladies and gentlemen, as a United States Marine, I never thought that I would literally be fighting for my country inside my country. I never thought I'd see the day where communism has literally stepped in and started controlling most of the federal government. I don't know about you, but I remember back in, not me, I've been told about it and I've done a little research on it, but 1963, 45 Rules of Communist Goals were written into congressional record. Do a little homework, pull them up and read them, and you'll see what's happening right here, right now, today. Now, somebody says, Mac, what got you into running? Well, I always love to tell this story because if you've never seen a little 7-year-old become 21 or 22, instantly, this is going to get you. So I work night shift. I work in Chattanooga, Tennessee as a shop supervisor. So I get up at 2:30 in the afternoon, I'm drinking my coffee. Well, just I've been watching a little bit of whatever news is on the TV because I don't catch TV much. Well, it was during the time when, all the flag burnings were happening, people were stopping all over the flags, And I'm getting mad. You gotta remember, I'm a jarhead. There's this stuff boiling up in me. My granddaughter comes out the bedroom, 7 years old, love her to death. I've got 8 grandkids. But this woman comes out and she goes, Peepaw, why are they burning our flag? What's at the TV that says, why are they burning our flag? Now notice I said, our flag? She didn't say my flag, your flag. She said, our flag. All I could do as a Marine was to hang my head. This comes from my granddaughter. And I looked up at her and I said, because I'm letting it happen. Way back when, we didn't tolerate communism. Now today, we're trying to coincide with it. She literally, at that moment, bam, real quick, turned around and pointed at me. She says, what are you going to do about it, Pop? You see me standing here today because I made a promise to her that I'm going to leave a legacy for her to grow up in. She's going to grow up in a free and sovereign state. Once I get the backyard cleared up, just like everybody else who's running for a local spot, congratulations, because now you're stepping up and you're building a format to take out the state level. and take out the communism on the federal level. That's where you got to start, is in your own backyard. It is time to stand, fight, deliver, and get this thing done. If you're with me, like I said, my name is Matt McGregor. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. You can find me at McGregorforGeorgia.com. Qualifying's coming up quick. So let's get this done, because I think enough is enough, don't you, Georgia? Let's stand your ground.
All right, if anybody got a question? Yes, sir.
My name's Charlie Chase. When you mentioned the Dominion voting machine, has anybody here ever gone for their ballot that they cast and looked to see how your vote was recorded? If you do, because I have done this, you will see that square barcode.
Exactly.
Can you read that?
Nope.
Do you know what your vote was actually recorded as?
Nope.
You can't read the barcode. That's all I got.
No, I fully understand, because actually Mike Lindell, I kind of briefly talked with him and how he forensically tore the machine down and went through it piece by piece. All the algorithms. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, real quick before I take any more questions, let me tell you something. Don't be scared to vote. Let's just get that out of your mind right now. There's two things that you can do, because you got to remember the machines run on an algorithm. Do they not? Yep. That's how the Democrats overran the system. Did they not? They broke the algorithm. So this is what I need you to do. One or two ways. You do understand that coming up, real quick, you can actually order your absentee ballot, right? And all these nice little drop boxes we got here that are legal now. What me and some of the other candidates were thinking is, okay, so everybody go out and get you an absentee ballot. Okay? If you don't want to use the machine, go ahead and get you an absentee ballot. But don't turn it in until day of election. See how that works? Right? Now, on top of that, now if you want to do the machine thing, this is something that everybody needs to get on board with. If you flood the vote, like Margie Taylor Greene's talking about, flood the vote. She's talking about you overriding the system and actually using their own weapon against them. Mm-hmm. Because literally the contract that Georgia has is that we're supposed to use the machine for the next 10 years and pay it off in 20. How do you feel about that? Exactly. Okay, so there's some of us that we're going to be in the process of seeing what we can do to get these machines kicked out ASAP. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Yes, Laura.
What do you tell people? Okay, you made a point, people should go out and vote en masse. Why do you think it's important for us to find out what happened in 2020?
Okay, first of all, if a machine was voted on to bring in here and it didn't pass the state election board, that machine's illegal. So therefore, whoever voted yes on that and brought that bill in, I'm going to say right now, they're accomplice to a crime. Yes. Okay? Okay, so does anybody understand what the lieutenant governor actually does? No?
Override the Senate.
That's right. We run the Senate. What does the Senate do?
Nothing.
Not right now, anyway. I promise you.
They pass bills sent to them by the House, they have to go back to the House to be passed again, then they go up to the governor.
House side deals with the purse. In other words, they deal with your money. The Senate side deals with law. In other words,
Constitutionalist.
okay, so in other words, the lieutenant governor also does the judiciary committee. He appoints people on that. He also ethics committee. He appoints people to that. You understand where I'm going with this? As lieutenant governor, you got to understand, I've already told these people up at the Gold Dome, as of Friday, they heard me loud and clear. I told them, I said, every elected official up there needs to get their affairs in order. Because as soon as I take the oath, I pull my hand off that Bible. Now, I think there's going to be a little bit of background checking going on. Because I'm willing to be the first lieutenant governor to put them in the prison system that they have created.
All right, we got one have time for one more question. Anybody? All right.
Thank you, God bless you all. Yeah, no.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor, for your passion. Our third speaker tonight is Colonel Alan Sims. He has been kind enough to be at a lot of our meetings lately, so y'all know him already. Let's welcome him right here.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. It encourages me to be among so many concerned citizens that are willing to stand up and take action to secure our nation. My wife, Vanessa, sends her regrets and her regards. Her regards because she really appreciates forums like that, like this one, and she is a diehard red, white, and blue American fighter. And so she loves that we're together tonight. And she is currently down at the airport. She's on the 8:45 flight to Washington, D.C. She'll be at the Pentagon all day tomorrow. I served 34 years in the military, and I retired. She still serves the Air Force. And I'm very proud of her, and I feel like our nation is far more secure and our skies are safer because Vanessa Sims is serving. Just right up the road near Bethlehem Church, that's where Vanessa and I attend. We have a great house and we live in a great community, not just because the houses are nice, but because we have wonderful neighbors. You know, this part of Georgia, we're not exactly the representative sample, but this part of Georgia is very conservative compared to the rest of the nation, and we want to keep it that way.
Amen. That's right.
I currently fly for Delta Airlines as an international pilot. People ask me all the time, Alan, why would you give all this up and why would you take this tremendous pay cut to go serve in the Congress where it's become a free-for-all? And my answer is the same every time. When I come back from Europe, when I fly back from London or Rome or Paris, it doesn't matter where my destination was. When I come home and turn on the TV, I see that we've lost more ground, that I'm losing my nation one trip at a time. I'm a brand new grandfather. Marissa is only 8 months old. And I just know that if I don't get into this fight at this moment when we can still win it, then I'm going to have regret if she's not able to live in a country that has the blessings and the liberty that we grew up with.
That's right.
I was born in Madison and grew up here in this region of Georgia. My dad was a recent veteran who started an HVAC business. My mom, a former bank teller, became his bookkeeper, his secretary, and his treasurer. And so I got to attend all the early meetings at the kitchen table, and I learned a lot about loyalty, and I learned a lot about integrity in business and bookkeeping. And I learned a whole lot about the government's relationship to small business, because we are a nation of small business, aren't we? And our government can foster that, or our government can make it harder. Now, my parents succeeded, and my dad, who's been gone 16 years now, left to his employees a company that still serves Georgians today and still provides jobs for Georgians today. And that gives me a great deal of satisfaction of who my parents were. They taught me something else at that same table. That table was one of those 1960s with the metal legs and the squiggly lines on top that you might find at a diner. And it was wobbly, but there were a couple of things at that table that were rock solid. And one was my parents' faith, and the other was their commitment to each other. And they taught me something at that table that I want to share with you tonight. And you already know it, but it bears hearing again. America, this nation of ours, is an exceptional nation. We were formed and born under providence. But the corollary with that is the responsibility that it comes with, right? We're the party of personal responsibility, and it comes with this charge. If we are to continue to prosper under the protection of providence that we've enjoyed now for more than 200 years, we have to remain aligned with our foundational principles. Those principles that our founding fathers identified in the Bible and in nature, they identified them as timeless and universal, and they stitched them into our founding documents. And that is why I found no problem taking an oath when I joined the military at West Point to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, that oath never expires. I'm under it to this day, and in Congress I will remain under that oath, and only the mission will change. I spent about 20 years, just a little more than 20 years, leading worldwide military operations, including deployment to Afghanistan, where I personally led 59 combat missions. Later, 2 years in Jerusalem, Israel, and then I was called to the Pentagon to become the Middle East Policy Director and the Israel Policy Advisor to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There's a thread that runs through that. I had begun a degree, a Master of Arts in Religion, and I studied and pursued that because I'm a Christian. But GOP found that interesting because in that was a heavy study of what goes on in the Islamic mind and what makes them think that we are the great Satan. And so I got to have more insight of that during my 2 years in Jerusalem. I got to help build the Israeli Iron Dome system. I got to lay the groundwork that we now know as the Abrahamic Accords. And because of those experiences and my education there, I was pulled to the Pentagon to work on Middle East issues on the Joint Staff. I did finish an additional degree, a master's in divinity, and I stand before you tonight as an ordained minister. And this informs my policy, my faith, and my background in national security. Later at the Pentagon, I served as the Director of Energy Policy for the Air Force. I tell you about all this time at the Pentagon, 8 years, because there I worked closely with the White House, with the State Department, with Capitol Hill, and throughout the interagency. And I worked with our partners and allies at their embassies to ensure, to build plans and policies, and I had to create coalitions and to get support so that we could serve American interests and achieve American objectives. I know how to get things done in Washington, D.C. That said, I've never served elected office, so I don't owe anyone anything. I'm not bought. So in Congress, I answer only to you, the citizens of the 10th District, and to God above. Look, like you, I'm very proud to be an American. I believe that we are the city on the hill, and I believe that when we come out of the leadership role, bad actors step in. And so I'm very nervous tonight as I speak, and I'm not nervous because I'm friends. I am nervous because I don't know what's going to happen in Ukraine tomorrow. And I think that we all are apprehensive about it because this is the same administration that capitulated to the Afghanistan Taliban just a few months ago. This is the same administration that has invited domestic enemies and given them quarter. These are people who champion critical race theory and cancel culture and identity politics, Marxist tactics that are taking us to the left. They want us to forget our history, and they want to demolish our identity. And we're not going to let that happen.
That's right.
Now, look, I can see it. We all agree on a few things, and we agree on lower taxes and less government and equal opportunity. We're Republicans. And I can envision it right here. It's going to look good. But we agree on some other stuff, too. We believe that life is a precious gift from God.
That's right. Amen.
We uphold high our religious liberty and our right to free speech, our right to keep and to bear arms. We have a very high view of our Constitution and the original intent of our founding fathers, and we do believe in very limited government. And we hold these things in common because we share a common view of our founding of our nation, of how it happened and what those principles are. And so these are things that I will fight for every day. And I appreciate you taking a stand for these things. I appreciate your concern for those right now.
Amen.
I'm very encouraged when I look around the room and I'm reminded that growing up among Georgians like you prepared me to serve in the military as an officer and a pilot. And it's prepared me for leadership in Congress. Look, we're in this together. You sent me to the military academy at West Point. You sent me to War College. And then you sent me to war in the Middle East to counter Iraqi aggression and to secure Kuwait. You sent me to Europe to secure Sarajevo and to deliver aid there. And you have sent me to Israel and you have sent me to Afghanistan, to name a few. And now I ask you to vote May 24th and send me to Washington, and let's fight to secure the soul of this nation.
Amen.
Anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Speaking to your military service, and thank you for that. My husband's a proud Navy veteran, so thank you for that.
That still counts as service, even though it's a Navy.
Hey, you guys don't have a nuclear program, right? You want to be a nuclear engineer, you got to be in the Navy. So, which makes it pretty smart. So, speaking of all your service and all your deployments, as we look at the situation in the Ukraine, it makes me very nervous. Being as you've been in Europe and you know how Europeans really do feel about us, why are we going back anywhere? Why should we get involved? I mean, or should we not? Should we keep out of it? What's your opinion?
Yeah, this isn't a soundbite answer, so I hope you can bear with me for a couple of facts. Remember that Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union and it had a vast arsenal of nuclear weapons. And at the end of when the Soviet Union split up, we enticed them to get rid of their nuclear weapons, and we signed a memo, and this is the Budapest memo in 1994, and we guaranteed certain securities to the Ukrainians if they would just give up their nuclear weapons, which they did. We signed up to that with several other European nations. And then after that, we have never lived up to that. It hasn't been challenged, except by the Soviet Union. But we failed the first time in 2014 when Russia invaded. And the media didn't even report on our obligations there or how we got involved to start with. We made overtures to them that they could become part of NATO. They've never been allowed in. And so now we don't really have that legal right, but we still have the agreement, the memo that we'd already signed. Why should we get involved? We're asking this at this hour, and that's the problem. We have troops going to Poland and going to some NATO countries. It's all kind of posturing. My concern is that this administration is so incompetent, they might actually get us involved in a shooting war. And I don't think that we're well postured to actually win or prevail or even advance our projected objectives or even make a good statement of resolve. So there are things that we can do. We need to put the sanctions on as hard and as fast as we can. We need to unify with NATO if that's even possible anymore. And we need to come against this Russian aggression because it won't stop here. And that's why we should take action, but we should do everything we can to stay out of a shooting war.
That's right.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Just as a quick background on what you're talking about, we spent 40 years in a Cold War with these people. And actually what we did, we took the defense of Europe on ourselves and paid for it, while Europe played with communism themselves. And now they're scared to death because there's the Soviet Union sitting there in the form of Russia. And, you know, they're coming back. It's just like the Nazis in World War II. They're there and they're coming back. And they're not going to stop, like you say. There's Poland, there's...
John, what's your question, please?
Well, that's just clarification is all I've done. I'm sorry.
Do you have a question?
No.
Okay.
You cut me off. How's that?
Okay.
There's one back there.
Oh, yes, sir. Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Dennis. I can't see so good. Sorry.
For your service, so here domestically, gas prices are, over $3. How do you think that impacts the overall economy?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for answering. I'm really sympathetic to this one and tuned in. I remained dialed in. I served as the Director of Energy Policy, like I said, for the Air Force at the Pentagon. And one of the things that I was tasked with was to lead DoD efforts to help the United States achieve energy independence. And if you'll remember, we did that during the last administration, right? It was a blessing to us all, and we prospered under that. And American sovereignty was so much more guaranteed at that moment because we didn't really care what OPEC said or any decisions that they made. We weren't concerned about Putin or the various dictators of the world and how they might impact us and our sovereignty. And our economy roared and the price of oil was low. And that's because we had energy independence. And this administration has forfeited that even within the first few months of taking office. So how does it affect our overall economy? There's a lot of people who spend a great portion of their personal monies on gasoline. And then I think of independent truck drivers, and I think of people who use fuel as part of their getting to work. Out here in Winder is a great place to show that because a lot of people do commute distances to work. And so that's the immediate thing that people think of. But the greater thing that this impact has is that as oil goes up, it's baked into every commodity that we have. It's baked into farming, it's baked into transportation, it's baked into the manufacturing of goods. And so all of those goods and services rise in price to accommodate the higher price of gas. And so it's a source of inflation. So we know that inflation is roaring right now, and it's going to get worse. And it's roaring because this administration, it's not alone, but this administration has even poured more money like gasoline on the fire. But at the same time, the one that's masked is the price of oil going up and up and up is another source of inflation. And it's the easy one to address, right? If we want to become energy independent again, we can take that source back down and turn the temperature of our inflation down.
That's right.
What's your thoughts if, let's give the best case scenario, we take back the House, we take back the Senate. Would you be for starting investigations and subpoenaing people that brought false charges against our president?
I'll lead that effort.
I think that's a good one to end it on, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Colonel Smith. And I neglected to say, he's running for the 10th District Representative. I think all of y'all know that anyway, but thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, now we've got local issues to take on. We were supposed to have Robin Martinelli here tonight. She called me about 4:30 and said she was running 103 temperature and did not want to come and mess with y'all. It's not COVID, but she still didn't want to come. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but she did give me her phone number and said y'all can call her anytime. So if you would like to call Robin and talk to her, I've got her number and I'll give that to you. But we do have Alex Ward, who's also running. It's the 4th Commission District, and I'm gonna let him talk and then I'm gonna give y'all a little bit more information. So let's welcome Alex.
So first off, good evening. Thank you all so much for having me out here. When I started looking for a home, one of the things that really attracted me to Barrow County was less congestion, small town community feel, lower taxes. And after I moved in, so even when I was touring my house, I had neighbors coming up to me, introducing themselves to me, and I really liked that. I love that feel, that sense of community. And then after moving in, I started seeing all the growth that we're all experiencing, right? And I saw a bunch of rezoning notices going up around my house. And so I started digging, and I started looking at those rezoning requests. And I really tapped into my background as both business management as well as a contract attorney. And I started digging deep into those proposals and looking at those proposals. And one of the things that I recognize that growth is going to happen. You can't stop growth, and it is the cornerstone of change. But in looking at the rezoning requests, one of the things that bothered me was that a lot of the rezoning requests did not seem to match the characteristics of the surrounding properties. And in addition, when they did match those characteristics, in a lot of the cases, we weren't following our own zoning requirements that are contained in the Unified Development Code. For example, just the lot sizes. We were approving rezoning requests that had lot sizes smaller than what that rezoning district allows for. And so what got me into this race was the recognition that we needed somebody on the commission that can dig deep into those proposals, that can ask those important questions, that can say, hey, how is this going to affect our community? How is this going to affect our county? What effect is this particular provision in this proposal going to do for our community? And so while the county continues to grow, it's important that we have leaders in place that can make sure that that growth is guided through a smart, responsible way. You know, I mentioned earlier about that small town community